Hi there, this is Maud, and here you see my collection of sewing machines. And today I want to talk to you about using your sewing machine for paper crafting. Can you use your sewing machine for paper crafting? Yes, of course you can. I mean, people who are telling you that you can't, well, when I was a lot younger and I wanted to make like a faux leather skirt, my sewing machine did not like that faux leather, especially the transporter on the underside of the machine did not like it. And guess what they told me? Use a piece of paper to glide it through your machine, and then when you're finished, rip the paper off. So yes, you can use paper. No problem there. But today I'm going to talk to you about machines you can use and machines you shouldn't really use, and that is the middle one, because that is a serger, and well, you don't want to use that one for your paper because it also contains a knife, and you also should not I mean, some of us do, I'm guilty of that too, but you should not use your scissors that you're only using for fabric on paper, right? And that's the same with the serger. It contains a knife, so don't use that one for paper. But the one on the right next to the doll with the red cap, the Leeuwenstein Easy Jeans, that one has been my working horse for over 20 years now. It can do anything I want. And the green one that you see on the left, that's my Toyota, with a really difficult name, Okaki. That one is a computerized sewing machine. And why did I get it? Well, it has so many more stitches. And yes, I am 56 now. I had some money saved and I thought, well, I'll spoil myself. But I'm still keeping the Leeuwenstein Easy Jeans. Leeuwenstein is a brand that I've bought twice, but I should give you a heads up that Leeuwenstein is no longer a brand name. The company has become Janome. So if you're looking for a similar machine, they're still making these machines, but they're called Janome now. Let me, yeah, you see this picture. Let me walk you through a few things, good news and some not so good news about using your sewing machine on paper. In my opinion, sewing paper resembles sewing lightweight cotton fabric, and you use the same type of needle and thread, and you will experience nothing different. No difficulties, no extra wear and tear on your sewing machine. Your tension should be on medium, and your stitching, well, really on every width or length that you prefer, and there should be no difficulties. One little tip, make sure that your bottom spool has got enough thread when you start, because there's nothing, and I do that too, but there's nothing more annoying than being in the middle of your project and then finding out that your bottom spool has emptied and you need to make another spool. I will show you later on in the video how you do that. Don'ts are, don't sew anything with wet paint on it or wet glue, because that will ruin your machine. Don't sew washi tape or any other tape, because the sticky parts of the tape will get into your machine, and yeah, you need it fixed, you need it repaired. So anything sticky is not a good idea. And don't sew over chipboard, or you've got these little wooden elements that you can glue onto paper. Don't do that. Your needles won't like you and they will bend and you will have to replace them. Same counts for wallpaper. Wallpaper is doable, no problem there, but sometimes there's a lot of wood chips in wallpaper. or if it has a finish on it that is washable, really nice wallpaper, but your transporter won't like it, so then you need an extra piece of paper. So that could make your life a little bit difficult. Be careful with sewing over pins, because if your needle catches on a pin, they both might break. And if you hear this awful sound like your needle catching on the pin, replace both of them immediately, because your needle of your sewing machine will be bent, will have damage, and the rest of your project will not be working. The good news, if your machine doesn't work, or if you're thinking I'm rubbish, well, most of the time it's just going back to the manual. Do everything the manual says, and if you did everything correctly, then it's not you. It's probably your sewing machine who needs maintenance. And if you have got a sewing machine like these three here, they can be brought to the dealer and he can do maintenance on them. If you have bought a sewing machine through Amazon or any online shop, well, here in the Netherlands it is really difficult to find a repair shop then that will help you, and that is something that I find really annoying, but it is the way it is. And on the first two sewing machines, the white ones, you see a sticker of the dealer that I bought these sewing machines from, and if I take these two to a dealer, there will be no problem. But if I take the green one that I bought online to a dealer, there are dealers that will send me out, and I have been around for a long time now, and I have gone to several dealers, and to be honest, where I'm living now, the nearest two dealers won't have my sewing machines, and that is, well, that's not good news. But I found one 60 kilometers from my house that has no problem with me bringing in any machine. He's also fixing the two doll machines right now, and if he fixed them, he will send them back to me through post, so I don't have to drive 60 kilometers every time. But yeah, the ones nearest to me won't help me, and that is something to consider if you're thinking of buying a sewing machine. If you're buying it from a shop, a stone shop, then they probably also are going to give you a few lessons on how to work with this sewing machine, and that can be a big help. And if you did everything right according to the manual and it still won't work, then take a break, try again tomorrow, because there's nothing more annoying than a machine that doesn't work. I must say, your sewing machine is a little bit like your car or your bicycle. It does need maintenance, and there are parts inside these sewing machines that I don't know the first thing about. I mean, I ride a bicycle, I ride a car, but I'm not a repair kind of person. Also with these sewing machines, I don't know how to repair the inside. So that is something to consider also. Get maintenance on your machine. And I'm going to turn this camera now and find an angle that I can show you how to thread it. But be mindful that every machine is different. I'm putting away the serger, because if you want to work with a serger, then please get some professional help. I'm not professional in that way. But yes, I'm going to show you on the white Leeuwenstein how I thread it, how I wind the bottom spool, and how I change a needle, and I'm also going to show you a couple of needles that I normally use. So I'm going to change up the I'm going to change up the camera and I'll be back. So I've got my sewing machine on a rather odd angle, but this way I can show you everything about the machine. Here you see the bottom spool that you can take out. Mine, I need to flip this little thing here. Sometimes you can just pull on it, but mine I have to flip open. And then I've got the bottom spool in here with a little bit of blue thread still on it. If you put the spool in, read the manual, because, well, it's kind of contradicting, but you have to put your spool in with the thread going this way, then bring it back and pull it around this little thing here, and then with your top thread get the thread to the top and push this thing back in again. Your threads, make sure they are long enough when you start working, because if they are too short, then because the machine is taking it up, it will it will just go out of the needle and disappear back into here, so your sewing won't work. So make sure when you start your thread is long enough and put it to the back. And also make sure you put it underneath the pressure foot. The pressure foot you can remove by pushing a little button on the back, and then it comes out. And most of the machines have got all these. This one is for making buttonholes, but you've got all these pressure feet, and well, this one is for sewing in a zipper. This one I've never used. This one I have never used. So these ones are for, and you have got these ones. This is one to avoid when you want to do like a zigzag stitch, because it will catch your needle, because it won't be able to do a zigzag stitch. The one that is always in my sewing machine is this one, this kind of plasticky one, and I can do all my stitching with this one, at least the stitching that I do, because, well, I also sew clothes, but I don't do any really difficult stuff. So putting it back, just put your pressure foot down and it will catch and it will sit on there again. Always make sure that your top thread also sticks underneath your pressure foot. And make sure, I will take it off again, that your transporter is going up, because there is a little button on your machine. Let me take this off. It is on the back of your machine, and you have to find it. I can't show it to you right now, but now my transporter won't come up again. And that is something that you can use for a special project. But if you've got your transporter down, then it won't transport your work. So you need to put it up again. Find that little knot at the back. And now it comes back up. You can see this comes back up, and that is your transporter, which is also a very important part of your sewing machine. And if it doesn't work, then bring your sewing machine to a repair shop and have it repaired, because that's something, well, it's really difficult to do, and I can't do it myself too. threads. I've got many different spools here. I buy the more expensive brands. Why? There is a cheap brand here and I've got a more expensive brand here. If I tear this, obviously the end is a little bit fuzzy. But if I tear the really cheap ones, then the end is even more fuzzy. And those fuzzes get into your machine. Oh, wow. And that needs to be cleaned out. How do you do that? Well, you can take everything out. I'm not going to do that because I hate that job. So that's why I bring my sewing machine in for maintenance every 1 to 2 years, depending on how much I'm using my machine. And because I use the better quality thread, there's not too much fuzz in here. But when you open this up and this is covered in fuzz, then get your spool out, get your vacuum cleaner and clean it out. The parts that you can see. I mean, you can take everything off, but I'm not a person that does that. I bring it to the repair shop. Like I told you before, there are repair shops that will tell you that they won't take in your sewing machine because you didn't buy it off of them, or there's no sticker of another sewing machine shop on there. But I just thought of something, because there are repair shops now, sometimes within secondhand stores, or just, you know, people that love to repair things. So find somebody that will help you, because there are things inside here, the motor, and I can't tell you anything about it. And if that doesn't work, then your sewing machine is basically useless, and it's not up to you. You can't do anything about it. I mean, if you have a car that won't start, it's not that you can't start a car. It's just your car that doesn't work. And that is the same with the sewing machines. Preparing a new bottom spool. I'm going to get an empty spool and show you. On the top here, there are two places to, well, with this sewing machine, there are two places where I can put my thread. One is up here, and yeah, I was stupid. I broke this, so I have to get a new one. And one is here. That one is no use for big spools. Yeah, this one works, but sometimes it's no use for bigger spools, and then you have to use this one. But either one is fine. I'm going to use this one because, well, I have to get a new one. Putting it around here, getting the spool, and there is a little hole in there. If you've got a really old machine, you might have these in metal. They work exactly the same. There is a little nudge in here. Get that on that part. With my sewing machine, I have to click this one into here, and here, back here, I have to pull the center knob out. This is up to your machine, how your machine works, what you have to do. Obviously, I have to turn on the electricity, and now I can wind this spool simply by putting on my feet on the pedal. So the machine does it all by itself. Now, to get back to sewing, I have to push in the knob here click this one out, and then I can thread the machine all over again. And there is a safety mechanism. Hear it? It's not winding anymore because it is the thread. I've threaded it so far that the thread is catching on this one, and now it stops. Do this again. Oh, and that is also a tip from somebody who has been working with the sewing machine. Get a really sharp pair of scissors so there's no fuzz at the end of your thread, and that makes threading the needle so much easier. Well, the top part I'm cutting off. You know, that little bit of thread that I took through the hole. I don't want it catching on anything. So putting this green thread inside my sewing machine. And now threading the sewing machine. Well, this one makes my life really easy because it says here 1. I just follow the instructions on the sewing machine. Then it says 2. And I'm feeling that now it says 3, 4, and here above my needle there's also a piece where I should put my thread through. If you forget this one, obviously it won't work. So rethreading your sewing machine can really help. And because this thread has a little bit of fuzz, I'm going to cut it and then I'm going to put it through the needle. And obviously I'm at a really strange angle. Make sure that your thread is going straight into the needle and doesn't make a curl around the needle, because then it also won't work properly. Get the bottom thread to come up, put them in the back, put them like this, and I've got my tension at medium. I've got it at 5. This shouldn't be a problem if you're sewing paper. I mean, don't put it on high tension or low tension. If things are not working for you, then again, bring it to a repair shop, because if this is your problem, then there's something wrong on the inside of the machine most of the times. Paper should be on medium tension and nothing else. And if you're going to a repair shop, don't talk about that you're sewing paper. Just for not getting strange looks or being thrown out, because that happened to me once. Just tell them that you're working on a simple tote bag and you're a novice, and you are just working with lightweight cotton and you need some help. And then I'm sure they will be quite eager to help you if you're saying that. But if you're saying straight away that you're working with paper, yeah, they can be snobs. Then they don't understand it, and you will have a bad experience. People telling you, get out, I don't want to help you. That happened to me. I'm going to get a piece of cloth and a piece of paper and show you how I sew my things, basically. So I've brought in all these different things, a huge jumbo playing card, so that is cardstock. which is fine for my sewing machine. An old piece of paper that I have glued already like yesterday, so the glue is completely dry. A really flimsy piece of paper, some baking paper that is really slippery, and let me just take a part off. Some wallpaper, the ones that I told you about that have this vinyl finish, but I can use it. A piece of, what is it? Trim. A piece of lace, and this is the more difficult lace because it's also stretchy. A piece of felt, and the most difficult thing to sew in the whole world, on my opinion, really flimsy silk, because this will stretch and it will go all the ways that you don't want it to go, but it is doable. So, yeah, I will flip you around a little bit. And let's make an arrangement on this card in a way that, we can turn this into, let me get something else, another page. Because this doesn't cover the whole page, and I want something that does. Piece of this. So if I want to sew this is really slippery. It can, if I'm starting to sew, it can go either way. So what I want to do is get a bit of glue stick and just attach the center. So now it won't go anywhere. But what I'm going to do is make myself a cup of coffee, wait for this glue stick to dry, and then I will continue. So for you it will just be a second and I'll be back. That was a yummy coffee. And what I did, I've made an arrangement of everything. And I'm going to show you how to sew these all separately. But first let me sew this card on. I want this map on the back side. And let's just go ahead and sew this thing. I want my thread to the back and also the bottom thread. Make sure it is to the back. And then I'm going to look at my stitching. I don't like my stitches to be too small, so I'm putting it on 3. I'm not starting with a zigzag, so I am doing a straight stitch at 3 and no zigzag. That's how I'm starting. If you don't like noises of sewing machines, then please by all means put your put the noise down, but this is the sound a well-kept sewing machine should make, not louder. Turning it, and this is a tip, leave the needle in if you don't want to start at a different point, but take the needle up if you want to change to a zigzag. This is just a plain machine, so I have to turn knobs to make other stitches. As the zigzag, I want a little bit less. I want it wide, but a little less length. And now I want to change it up to straight stitching again. Just want it one step further. And now I want to do a zigzag that catches the whole side. So I'm putting it on a zigzag again. The needle is up and I'm changing it again. And I think I just showed you that I did not put the needle up. Uh-oh. And go back a bit and forth. Put everything in the starting position, your needle up. Get your pressure foot up. And if it catches, that's not a good thing. It needs to go smoothly. And here you have the stitched paper. And it should look really neat at the back. If it's not your tension. If it catches on the back, if there are loose threads, then replace your needle, because 9 out of 10 times your needle has some wear and tear on it. And if that is not working, then again, get it to the repair shop, because there's nothing you can do about it. It's just your machine that needs a little repair. I want my threads to be on there, so I'm cutting off the lower part. With paper scissors. I'm really careful with my sewing scissors. I don't use them on paper. So now this is backed with a lovely piece of nap paper, and I want to use this as a pocket on the front. And this is that really old paper that has some wood in here. How do I know? Well, you can see these little things. And with age, this is a sign that there's wood inside your paper. It's made of wood pulp. And also, yeah, the paper ages differently from cotton paper. So now, let me first put some lace on top of this, because I'm going to layer it and showing you all the kinds of materials that you can use together. I'm going to use horrible green thread. I would normally change it to brown, but that way I can show you how you can do this. Put the lace on top and the paper underneath, because your transporter will, if the lace is stretchy, your transporter will stretch the lace, but it can't stretch the paper. So putting it like this, and obviously because you want to see where you're going, makes your life a lot easier again. Yeah, just a simple straight stitch. And again, if you want to give this a head start, not going anywhere, use your Pritt stick, but let it dry really well. Because this is stretchy, it does have some pull here. It's not straight on, so I am going to put a little glue underneath here also. And let that dry before I'm doing anything to it. Yeah, I made this little arrangement. Let me first show you how to sew felt. Oh, well, sorry, I was out of frame. this piece of felt on this flimsy piece of paper. It shouldn't be a problem. And let me do some zigzag stitching, but really small zigzag stitching this time. It wasn't that small. So here is the zigzag on the paper. And now for the horrible, horrible silk. It is not horrible, of course it isn't, but if you're using silk just under your sewing machine, I mean, I've only got these two pieces now. I'm not going to demonstrate it. I thought, am I? Well, let me just try it. I find it really difficult to work with. Let's just do a straight stitch. And let me see what my sewing machine does. Yeah. There's something catching, and I think it is here. Yeah. This is what I find difficult to work with silk just on its own, because now it pulls. So probably I will have to do something about the tension, and I have to take a needle that is well for silk. And I did not do that. I just used a generic needle for this. And now you get this. For this paper project, I don't find it a problem, because I actually like it to be a little wonky. But now let me put some trim on baking paper. And do a little zigzag again on the side. And here is the little zigzag on the side. It's nice when it catches the sides like this. And if I'm looking at it more closely, I will work at it better. But I've got my sewing machine on a really weird angle now. And I'm going to also sew this side, but with a normal straight stitch again. There is tension up above here. Something is not working like it should. Let me put it. So I've got this attached now too. Now I can assemble everything together. And let me just stitch everything onto each other. First, I will go through all these layers. And do a straight stitch over that zigzag stitch. So that is that attached, and now I'm going to sew this all together. And to do that aesthetically, I'm putting the silk, oh, it caught there, that's beautiful, underneath everything. Let me start at the beginning, but pulling my threads back. So now I've got everything attached to everything. This is still loose. If this were a project that I would put in my journal, I would probably just use glue on here, or make it more attractive with some other elements on there. And I would probably lose some of these loose threads, because many loose threads at the moment. What I would like to do is put this on the back of this card, so that there's a large pocket, or perhaps put it on this side. Yeah, let's put it on this side. And it's difficult now to sew here where you can't see where you're going. So what I would do is flip it around, and I want to lose some of these threads anyway. Just cut it to size. And now I'm going to sew this pocket on. I will use a straight stitch for this. I did not use any glue. The repair shop to look at that, because it's not functioning as it should. But for the rest, my sewing machine is, like I told you before, it is kind of a working horse, and it does everything I want it to do. So I've got this lovely pocket now, and at the back I will probably glue some coffee dyed paper, so I've got this big journaling card. This sewing machine for my more intricate computer sewing machine, and show you that there's basically no difference. It's just, yeah, the way I have to give that machine orders, that is different from this one. So I'm going to change everything up, and then I'll be back. I've got my computer programmed sewing machine on now, and there's not a lot of difference from the other machine. The only thing is there are far more stitches on here, and I've got this chart here. Let me show it to you. There are all these stitches on there, and well, sometimes a girl wants beautiful stitches, so that's why I got this one. I need this chart to be there, because I'm always forgetting what kind of stitch is what number. And basically I can change the numbers here. Change into number 2, change into number 3, Well, you get the idea. This is how I change the stitching on this sewing machine. And if I go lower, you can see the width of the stitching. Well, if you're just doing a straight stitch, there's no need for the width, but if you're doing a zigzag, go even lower. You see the length of the stitching. Let's make that a little bit longer. And here you can see the speed it is going at, because, well, there is a slight problem with this machine, and that is that the foot pedal, which I have here, is not long enough to reach the ground if I have this sewing machine where I have it now in the middle of the desk. So I need to keep this sewing machine right up to the front of the desk, and then the pedal can reach the floor. And that is a bit annoying to me, but I can also work with this start-stop system, and then it sews by itself. So this one I just pull out like this, and the threading of this machine, well, it's really the same as the other machine that I showed you. No difficulties there. This is better because this is a, can you see it? This is metal. And I actually like that it is metal. It won't break off as easily. Here it doesn't say the numbers, but you just follow the lines on your machine. And also again here, just above the needle, there is a little catch where I can put the thread behind. And on this machine, there is this gadget to pull the thread inside the needle. I always find it really difficult to handle. I have to put it like this. And then I'm not a fan of these gadgets, but yeah, it is there. Getting the thread up again, same like I did with the other machine. Putting this cap back, and well, the tension I keep in neutral. I have just a regular sewing needle on here, nothing special. And let's do some really fun stitching. I mean, there is a stitch on here that is really nice, and that is stitch number 45. So I'm not going, I need to go back to this, and now I can go to stitch number 45. This machine does it all by itself, only I have to, you see, with this stitch, I have no option of doing the width. I do have an option of doing the length. I want it just a little bit longer. And I have an option of the speed that this machine is working in. And I don't want it to go too fast, so I'm keeping it at 6. What else do I need to do with this machine? Nothing much. Well, I have to put the pressure foot down, of course. Let me just put it here. And yeah, just stitch. This machine makes more noise than the other. I didn't think a computerized machine would, but it does. So yeah, put the noise down if you are bothered by this, but the thing about this machine, which is also quite handy, is that it pulls up the needle by itself, so I don't have to do that. And also this part where the other one I need to put it on top, this one does it all by itself. And here you see, this is a beautiful stitch. This is the back side. It does pull a little bit, which tells me that I probably should change the needle for this paper, but yeah, I'm not too bothered with that. But really, it should be as neat on the back side as it is on the front side. I don't really care for these really small stitches, so I am going to try if I can widen the length, but probably the leaves are going to be further apart too. But let's try it. Let's see what it does. So I like it better like this, but you see the width, the length is a little bit different, but it does a better job on the back side as well. Something you might consider is changing the needle on your sewing machine. That works exactly the same on all sewing machines. Let me see if I can get you at an angle that I can show how that is done. I will pause the video here and let me find the angle to show you. So I've got the machine on a really weird angle so that you can see what I'm doing if I'm changing up the needle. With this machine, I need this little thing to take out the screw here. Always turn your machine off if you're doing things like this. We don't have much light now, but it's just as easy as turning on that screw and your needle will come loose. This is a regular needle. I've got all these needles here, like this one is for super stretchy material. This one is for Microtex fabrics. You might also need special needles for that. These needles came with the machine. They're regular standard needles. I never know the difference between 1990-14 and 75-11. Ask your specialist. I mean, I'm not that specialized. And I've got leather needles here. But for now, this needle is still good, so let's put it back. There's a flat side on the needle and a round side. And if you put the needle inside, you will feel which side needs to go where. And just put the screw back on, tighten it, and that's it. That's how you replace a needle. It's that simple. And also with this machine, there's a knob on here that I can push, and then the pressure foot comes out, and it's the same way to attach it. I just put the pressure foot down and it catches it again, and it is on there. I'm going to put this all away and yeah, show you some last things, some last tips. Maybe I'm going to have a think about what else I want to tell you. And yeah, let's wrap this up. So a little apology. I did not use the wallpaper on my sewing machine, but I guess you'll believe me when I say it's just as easy as the other things I've shown you. So I ran it through my die cutting machine, and I can use it in this project. I've torn off the back side of this paper, which is really easy if you are sewing on this paper. And if I want to stop this stitching from fraying, I will just put a little glue on there or put a little washi tape on there. And so this is the project that I did on my sewing machine using paper and felt and all kinds of materials. If you have more questions for me, then please put them down in the comments section. And I hope I could give you a little bit of advice on how to use your sewing machine for paper. And I hope to see you again really soon. Bye bye for now.